Two guys of Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Don't let the Twins get hot.
Nope.
Don't let the Twins get hot. 30,000+ people for these victories over the Cubs. Yeah.
Twins fans are just coming out in droves now to watch. Oh, never mind.
Cubs fans are definitely coming out in droves. Yeah, and you can get tickets.
That's right.
In fact, this weekend.
Huge weekend. Nelly, baby. It's getting hot in here. A little batter up. Little country grammar. Oh, I can't wait. Not only get the best pitching matchup at Target Field in years between Joe Ryan and Paul Skeens on Friday night. I got a post-game concert with Nelly. Twins.com/tickets. Yesterday was the biggest crowd at Target Field since opening day. So go to twins.com/tickets to get in on the action.
Also, Green Mill Pizza is available for your eating pleasure from our friends at Pep's Pizza, who make legit pizza. We've been talking about that for months and months. They also make and help distribute Green Mill Restaurant Pizza, the iconic Green Mill Restaurant brand, now in your freezer, now at home, in your mouth, in your belly. Tavern-style pizza from Green Mill. Also, they make soft breadsticks and sauces you can find at your local grocer. Sink your teeth into these bad boys here, and I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with the iconic Green Mill brand, so you'll enjoy. Learn more at greenmillfoods.com. We're going to fire someone's ass later on this Mackey and Judd podcast. But let's bring back themes from the week.
Sure.
Themes from the week, things that we've touched on across our bevy of Score North podcasts here that are worth circling back to. And one thing that I stuck a pin in a couple days ago. So we've done these 53-man rosters on Purple Daily. We did the all-quarter century Vikings 53 a couple weeks ago. We did the all-Jag team on Monday. And the Purple Daily comment section was flooded with, do the all-bust team. The all-bust 53-man roster. I think this would be a great little place, like we did with the Jag team previewing last week, to set some parameters here. So we all know what we're getting into on Monday's exercise. What should the parameters be for the all Vikings bust 53-man roster?
I think so. I began this exercise, full disclosure, yesterday.
Me too.
And in finding that, the all bust thing, the busts are obviously glorious, but there's not as many busts as there are Jags. I mean, Jags are everywhere.
There's definitely more Jags than busts.
Jags are just coming out of the woodwork.
Lurking.
So what I would propose, because I think I included a couple guys, not a lot, but I think I did include a couple busts from as far back as the 80s. So teams like that I saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because filling in some of the positions.
So part of the parameters are like, how far back in time do we go?
Yeah,
and I
went to
agree,
the 80s.
As far back as any of the three of us can remember and like vouch for a guy.
Yep.
Sure.
For sure. Or if there's an obvious like first round pick from the 70s that just did nothing, I guess we could include them. But I'm wondering, to what extent do we include? Because I think the whole exercise is whether it's draft or some other path to acquiring a player.
Absolutely.
That the expectation was here.
Absolutely.
And the actual level of play or result was down here, and there's a big gap. And that could be a trade, it could be a free agent, a draft pick.
I mainly looked at trades, free agents, and draft picks from the first and second round. I think after the second round, it's very hard. Like, there's a few that I've thrown in for fun, and because they just incredibly couldn't do jack squat.
Yeah.
But trades for sure, free agents for sure, and then I went heavily on first round draft picks, but I felt it was sort of fair to include second rounders as well.
Yeah, obviously the draft pick part's probably gonna be the easiest thing for us to get in on. There are some free agent guys too that fall on the list, even though they might not have signed a big contract, but there's an epic bust. Like, can I spoil one? Can I just suggest one?
Yeah, give
now?
us like one or two, just little
Okay.
teasers.
I think I know.
I personally think, even though it was one game, Josh Freeman should potentially be on that list because it was one of the worst games that has ever been displayed at the quarterback position, and Spielman made it. So, for example, that's a teaser. I think that applies into the all-bust team.
Yes.
I love that. And he he had at least one really good season in Tampa. Like he threw for like 4,000
First round draft
yards.
pick.
He was a
Yeah,
first
man.
round draft pick. And like, oh man, this
The
guy
Vikings loved him. Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
Yep. And I will, to Declan's point too, there are, and I won't divulge names here, there are some other free agents that were signed who weren't necessarily signed to mega contracts, who definitely there were expectations and they were
Yeah.
a complete bust.
Yeah. And I know you brought up, like, we might as well throw one more name out there. Like Herschel Walker, I fought you on in our initial discussion. But if we are opening up for more avenues here, Herschel wasn't nearly as bad as, like, you know, there's some draft picks. The Vikings tried to draft a couple running backs and it didn't work out.
Yeah.
He was like a good player, but the level of capital you gave up to get him raise the expectations up to here. So then would that be we can debate all these, but
Yeah.
So draft picks, free agents, and trades are all going to be in play for discussion.
Right. And I just ordinarily drew the line after the second round. So I'm not including a lot of, again, I think I had one like pick that was, because it's hilariously funny how ineffective the guy was, but you know, for me, third round on, like here's
I threw a couple third rounders on.
Here's an example of a guy I did not throw on.
Here's a guy.
But if you guys, and Phil does for sure, because he covered him. Like I didn't include like a Marcus McCauley.
He didn't make mine either, but there were I have three guys who were drafted in either the third or the fourth round.
Yep.
That in fact, I got to throw this guy.
Well, then let's discuss them. Yeah, and Herschel Walker. When I actually did this, the running backs, there's a couple that exceed her, like they were just because they were high draft picks. So, but yes, I think I think the parameters are clear. I just think the list has to go back a little bit further to actually find the actual busts. Where the Jag team, to me, it was just very simple to do it from 2000 to 2025.
Okay. The other big thing we did actually earlier today on Purple Daily was the head coach tiers. 32 head coaches ranked and put into tiers according to old Macadac here. And a question off that. So I had Kevin O'Connell number 9, and then above him are a bunch of either future Hall of Famers or just like really good coaches, the Harbaughs.
Sure.
What would it take for Kevin O'Connell to crack the top 5? It's easy to throw around like, oh, he's like a fringe top 5 coach or a top 10 coach.
Right.
But if right now, so that list right now going into this season, for the way I put the list together was number 1, Andy Reid, number 2, Sean McVay, number 3, Sean McDermott, and then the Harbaughs 4 and 5 with Sirianni, Kyle Shanahan, Dan Campbell filling out the 8 guys who are above him on the, like, what would have to happen for Kevin O'Connell either this year or in a future year to get to the top 5?
2 things. I would say number 1, an NFC title game at the least in terms of distance. I think that's a important step. And I know we keep discussing like we don't need McCarthy to, be amazing or put up the Sam Darnold numbers or look epic in his first year. If McCarthy does though look like that, then yes, it's a lock. I think those 2 things happening in conjunction with one another, I think are the things we put him into the top 5 discussion.
What if McCarthy's fantastic in the regular season? The Vikings get obviously to the playoffs then and lose in the first round. Does he bump up to top 5, 0-3 in the playoffs? I personally would say no.
Yeah, there has to be some level of playoff success for him to jump other guys on this list who are also very good right now with good teams and have playoff success. So Dan Campbell has been to has won the division twice in a row, first time since the mid-50s that a Detroit Lions team has won back-to-back divisions, and has been to the NFC Championship game. Kyle Shanahan, above KOC on my list, has been to 2 Super Bowls, and Matt LaFleur's below him, but Matt LaFleur's been to, like, he's won playoff games. Sirianni, the reigning Super Bowl champion. John Harbaugh has only been to 1 conference championship game in the last 12 years, but has crazy regular season success, right? Jim Harbaugh, like, I think he has to make a run to the Super Bowl to hop over 2 or 3 of these guys. Or like Andy Reid has to retire. Maybe Andy Reid retires, and then the Vikings get to a Super Bowl, and he jumps 2 or 3 of these guys.
if McCarthy has a fantastic season, and let's take Declan's thought process, they get to the NFC title game and they lose there, okay? And let's just say that San Fran takes a big step back. Brock Purdy's paid too much. The roster is definitely different, not better. I could see him jumping, and I'm not saying that this would be easy, but I could see it being plausible. I could see him jumping Shanahan in the next year.
Campbell.
I could see
the coordinators are gone.
Yep. I could see him jumping Campbell. Sirianni, as much as I don't like the guy personally, is going to be tough because he won a Super Bowl. That's hard to like trump that because of what he did. But I mean, there are definitely names on your list that I could see him jumping if he gets the most from McCarthy. And, if they go to the conference championship game and lose, that will obviously, as a Vikings fan, suck big time. But it would be a very impressive run for a guy who has yet to win a playoff game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a little bit of Denny Green brewing here with Kevin O'Connell.
Oh God, the comments are going to light up now.
Am I wrong? So Denny Green came in.
I just said the commenters are going to
won some regular season games, some divisions, didn't win a playoff game until like his 7th year.
And don't forget, Denny comes in to replace Bernsey in '92 and immediately makes the playoffs. And we're like, oh my God, you made the playoffs. Loses at home to an NFC East team, in that case, Washington. In O'Connell's case, the Giants. The parallels.
Just saying.
But I mean, it's so negative. I would never talk about it.
Yeah.
Did Tony Dungy didn't he have a tough start to his playoff career? Like as a head coach
In
with
Tampa?
with Tampa.
Yeah.
Look.
Let's see here. I'm just pulling this up. So he won.
Yeah, they did. Like it was like 2 or 3 years of playoff failures for sure.
I mean, So he went. So the first time he went in '97, they won a game. In '99, they won a game. Then they lost. They're one and dones, and then, I mean, he did struggle in the postseason before.
But then they fired Dungy, right?
Yeah, stupid.
And then turns out it wasn't because they then brought in Gruden and they won the Super Bowl in 2002.
But I mean, Tony did. I mean, just to be very clear too, here we're talking about Kevin O'Connell moving up on a list in which he was 9th, correct? So like if you are sort of just listening to this and you think that we're saying that he could be on a hot seat without playoff wins, I don't think anyone on the show thinks that. So like the playoff wins have to come and eventually it could be a problem.
What if they get beat 42-3 in a playoff game at home? Would you put him on a hot seat?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No, that dude's not. That it's going to take a lot.
The Ventline fans would.
Oh God. Well, yeah. Well, heck, if they lose opening night in Chicago, he'll be on a hot seat with the fan base.
Okay, let's flip the question. What would have to happen for KOC, who's nowhere near a hot seat, nor should he be, to be on a hot seat? Declan kind of floated a version of this out on Purple Dead.
Yeah, I think Declan
1 year from now, going into next season, what would have to happen for KOC to be on a hot seat?
McCarthy stinks. I mean, not just like average. He's awful. Christian Ponder, 2011, bad, not
15
good.
15 touchdowns, 19 picks.
Lost, just not good at all. And then probably the only thing would be, I think another big factor would be like some type of schism. Like, because if injuries happen and they're 5-11, like, okay,
right.
Darisaw wasn't ready or he got hurt again. Heaven forbid something happened to Jefferson. The defense looks awful.
Gets in a shouting match with Brian Flores on the sideline of the Thursday night football game against the Chargers or something.
Yeah, Judd probably can speak on this better than me, but he knows damn well that when a schism starts behind the scenes or even full frontal, like a yelling match, that is when this thing starts to rip apart.
Yeah,
I just start to complain.
Yeah, I just don't see O'Connell with what he's built around there. Like with Childress, it really wasn't a huge shock. Now, the fact he got fired the year after he went to the NFC Championship game was shocking. But like that meltdown, Phil, as you recall, you could see it in progress.
You could actually kind of see it brewing like from the first year he got there where, clearly players don't love this guy.
And plus, he also changed his personality. Like the first year, he was Belichick, practice in a driving rain 2-a-days for like 13 straight days. The second year, he's Dungy. He's playing around with players. O'Connell is, if nothing else, seemingly incredibly consistent.
Yeah, he's himself.
Yeah, but that's not true of, I mean, that's in coaching across all sports. That's not necessarily true. A lot of guys take on personalities because they think that's what works.
Dugan, Tahi, McNabb. Actually, he never had McNabb. I think he wanted McNabb at one
wanted
point.
McNabb.
Les wanted
Wasn't there
McNabb.
Vikings McNabb rumors a few
For like
years
3
before?
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it was like almost every other year it was like a thing towards
There
like
was a
08.
Cutler rumor in like 2000.
Oh yeah, the
They
Cutler
were
one.
involved in they were actually involved in those talks, I think, with Denver.
He eventually came here, but there was the Matt Castle franchise tag when that first happened. The Vikings were linked to that. I remember too.
The Vikings, dudes, going back to the 90s, because this team could never find a QB, it developed for the most part, aside from Culpepper and Teddy for a split second. You go back to a guy by the name of Scott Mitchell, who was outstanding when Marino, I think, his Achilles burst. Mitchell came in for the Dolphins and played like 2 good games. The Vikings had him in the building. He said he was going to sign, and thank God went to Detroit and just signed there.
Was that after they tried to get Marino?
That was, I think it was, yes. I think it was. So Marino was Denny 99? Is that? Because it was late 90s and Dan Marino was trying to decide.
It was 2000. I think it was 2000.
Okay.
It was like they
but
were
they
going to
definitely
delay
tried to get.
Culpepper's.
But I mean, the amount of quarterbacks, like we could do a whole show on the amount of quarterbacks the Vikings, name quarterbacks, the Vikings have been tied to because they could not solve their problem internally.
Yeah. The amount of names that they actually landed is unprecedented in NFL history, just like the stopgap quarterbacks. And then the Cutlers, the Marinos, Castle before they wound up getting him. One more theme from the week before we fire someone's ass here. Paul Skeens versus Joe Ryan at Target Field tomorrow night, right? Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Is the most for baseball diehards. Skeens is still working his way up. He's not quite Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge in terms of household name. The most anticipated matchup that you can think of, a Twins team or pitcher versus someone since what? Since when?
Is this the most to go back on that question, given the Twins starters in the Target Field era, first of all? Because I was trying to think of this exact thing. Because recency bias, right? So I'm thinking Skeens Ryan, this is the greatest. I can't think of a Twins matchup going in. Like there have been memorable ones, but I can't think of a matchup going in that would be this marquee since like Johan was starting in the Metrodome.
The only one, and I'm really I don't remember anything in Target Field era off the top of my head necessarily. The one that I do think of is Lariano versus Clemens. That was on ESPN.
In Houston, right?
That was in Houston.
In Houston.
That was in Houston. That wasn't here. But I can't remember another epic one in Minneapolis.
There's been a few where it's like the Twins have a good team and they're facing. I do remember. I looked this up because I covered the beat in 2010.
Scott Diamond.
And no, that was the next. That was like. There was a run. We should look that up too. Where Scott Diamond versus like Verlander or something was an actual fun matchup, but it was Justin Verlander with the Tigers coming in against Scott Baker, who was like a pretty good pitcher, but it was like a really good Twins team, and they lit up Justin Verlander in that game, and they wound up winning in 13 innings. But you probably do have to go back unless there was like a Liriano. Because Liriano kind of popped back up in 2010. He threw the no-hitter in 2011. Yeah. But the Twins haven't had that many dudes. Like Barrios was pretty good for a couple of years. They haven't had that many appointment viewing starting pitchers. And I don't know that Ryan is like appointment viewing. Certainly nowhere near the level that Johan was.
No.
But it's up there in the 16 season history of Target Field. Like this is pretty high on that list.
What was the greatest Metrodome Johan matchup? Because I mean, there had to be some marquee ones. I mean, he was so damn good, and he had to he had to have faced some aces. But I mean, the Twins just haven't had real aces.
Right.
Let's do a little comb through the Johan. So I'm trying to think of like 04, 06.
Yep. 06 is a great year.
Did Roy Halladay ever swing through? There were some matchups like the Oakland A's always had those dudes like Mulder and Zito, and so you had matchups like that. But yeah, Johan like 05, 04 was like it was his first Cy Young year, and Clemens was still around with Houston, but there haven't been that many. There haven't been that many. Irvin Santana doesn't really.
No, and yeah, you're right. Joe Ryan, not like some phenomenal ace at this point, but when you consider Twins starting pitching history in Target Field, he's up there.
King Felix was always with the Mariners was always a draw back in the day. So we'll see. We'll see if these last couple days you've got the backdrop of like Cubs fans are everywhere, and they come up from Chicago and stuff. I don't think Pirates fans are traveling in droves of thousands for this, so it'll be interesting.
Yes.
Does this draw Twins fans to the ballpark?
Yes.
On a Friday night in July? This we'll see.
Skeens
Plus Nelly.
And
Man,
Nelly.
you love
They're
that Nelly
stacking
show.
the deck, dude. They're
They
stacking
took out.
You love that Nelly show.
This is very look at me, Louis sans Dan Levitard show. But so there's a cafeteria on the lower level of Target Field in the service level. That's where like you can go eat and stuff. They have cleared out that entire cafeteria, made a makeshift one in the legitimate hallway of the service level. And Nelly's like crew needs a bigger space, so they are giving him that and that cafeteria space is fairly large. So they're giving Nelly that entire. It's been gutted all week because they're preparing it for Nelly and his entourage, his drama and turtle and his agent and stuff. They need that whole space.
Yeah. So you got to peek and see what the snacks are like in there. That's what I'm curious about. What kind of snacks does Nelly demand?
I don't know the exact number. I do know how can I can phrase this, I think, appropriately.
Oh.
Every year, these like the Twins, the Brewers, other teams, there's like buckets. There's buckets of these artists cost this much and these artists cost that much. Okay. Which artist do we want to pull out of and pay the fee? And then which can we also then get enough butts in the seats to make it worth us shelling out X amount of money for Nelly?
So like Flo Rida is in one bin.
Yes.
And Nelly's probably in a different bin.
I bet they're in the same bin.
Did Flo take up that much space downstairs? Because I mean, I would be balking big time. I'd be like, here's a little room for you. If you can't get set in that, then
Here's some pretzels.
So
then
some M&Ms.
Yeah.
T-Pain was also last year. I bet T-Pain might be in a little higher bin.
Higher than Nelly?
Yeah.
Did T-Pain take the whole lunchroom?
I don't know about that. I don't remember that.
Well, I would have thought like just, my vast pop culture catalog mentally that Nelly would be in a higher tier than T-Pain historically.
No. Well, I mean, if you're looking historically, yes, but you got to think also relevancy now. Like more people younger are going to be more gravitated towards T-Pain because T-Pain was like a half. Like his peak was about 5 to 10 years later than Nelly's peak, like in the early 2000s. T-Pain's peak was like in the 2010s, 2008 and on. I mean, I love me some T-Pain.
Where's Kid Rock, huh?
I don't think Kid Rock's gonna.
Kid Rock's a little polarizing politically.
Yeah, that's a little different.
So, but you could you probably draw a lot of people. A lot of people would leave, and that's people's prerogative. Speaking of, I'd like to fire someone.
Yeah.
Similar bin of musical act announced coming to Minnesota here. Quickly, though, a shout out to our friends who are slinging tea times down at the Meadows at Mystic.
That's right. Go to golfthemeadows.com. It's one of the best golf courses around. It's just about a half hour south of the metro here. And in fact, I think you can, I'm not sure if you can book out all the way up to September, but maybe you're looking at Vikings games coming up this year and you're coming up from the south. Book a tee time. golfthemeadows.com to get in one of the best actions. They got the GPS infused carts. Plus, they also right now have a great patio. So if you need a cold one after your round, if you're shooting 103 and you need to celebrate that would be something I would do. I do it at the Meadows at Mystic Lake. golfthemeadows.com.
North American Banking Company is also here for your banking pleasure. If you're looking for a better banking experience, whether it's checking and savings or whether you're looking to finance something bigger, you need help with the mortgage process, you're launching a new business, whatever it may be. North American Banking Company, locally based here in the Twin Cities with 6 locations since 1998, is here to help you. Friendly, knowledgeable people. Safety and security of your accounts is a huge priority. And if you need to get a hold of an actual human, you can through North American Banking Company. Go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Okay, it's time to fire someone's ass. I'd like to piggyback off an announcement that I saw this morning here, and they teased it like U.S. Bank Stadium or whatever the parent umbrella entertainment marketing wing is. They teased it as the biggest show in Minnesota history. That this is going to be, you ain't seen nothing yet. In decades of events and concerts, the biggest show in Minnesota history. And people are like, what are they announcing? Who and what could, Taylor Swift was already here
Tay
for
coming back?
a couple days. I mean, we got a Super Bowl here, WrestleMania, but we got snubbed on WrestleMania, so that's probably not happening.
I don't like talking about that.
And the announcement was that 83-year-old Paul McCartney is going to run it back one more time.
Sir Paul
McCartney, the biggest show in Minnesota history, even though he's already played countless big shows in Minnesota history. By the way, his first farewell tour, I looked this up this morning. It's like, has he just been saying, I'm just going to keep touring till his first farewell tour was announced in 2007. 18 years ago, he fired up. All right, I'm in my 60s now. I think it's probably time to wind this thing down, and let's sunset my musical career. I think he's worth over $1 billion. I don't know if maybe he's blown some of that or marriages or whatever, but like, I know it's disrespectful. He's a legend, and Juddy's more from your era than mine.
Love Paul McCartney.
I'm good on Paul McCartney. 83 years old. I'm good. Paul, I'm sorry you're fired. We don't need another stadium show. Go hang out at some remote location with your $1 billion. You're in your mid-80s, dude. Like, I'm good on Paul McCartney.
Loves to work. He loves to work. Here's my thing, though. To your point, too. Ticket prices. I mean, by the time you buy those tickets, you got to sell your house, right? With the secondary, the charging fees, all that. Now, I've seen McCartney 3 times, and he's played here in the last.
He's played Target Field like
yes, and he's played the X. He's played the Metrodome. He's played Target Field. The Beatles first appeared here at Met Stadium in '65. By the way, they did not sell out. One of the few shows that did not sell out, and they did not get along with the authorities because Sir Paul might have had an interaction with a young lady who he shouldn't have. But anyway, long story short. I've seen him 3 times. I saw him in Ames, Iowa in '89. So he was in his 40s at that time. Early 50s. Great show outdoors. Saw him at the Metrodome in '93 or '94. Awful. Indoors sucked. Stale, bad acoustics, just not fun. Saw the 2014 show at Target Field. Just a bucket list show. Absolutely fantastic. I was good right there. Right there. But here's my problem, too, is I have heard the acoustics in US Bank Stadium aren't great.
Terrible.
Great.
I would not pay to see him indoors. The outdoor show, gorgeous summer night, I forget, July, August, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I am amazed that he... I mean, I'm not amazed because he loves to work. Maybe I'm amazed. But that he could, at that age to be touring like this, I'm good. And I love the Beatles.
I mean, I love Aerosmith. And I saw Aerosmith, they were doing a residency. He's almost 80, Steven.
He's back singing, man.
And I'll say this for Steven Tyler. I saw him at Park MGM in Vegas for a residency, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. So he was probably like 70. And it's no lip syncing. He hit every single note on Dream On. Like he was throwing fastballs at 70. So, but 83, well, I almost feel bad. Like, dude, it's going to be like 90 degrees. You're just out there.
And the other thing, though, too, is I'm not joking, ticket prices. Like, ticket prices to those shows are ridiculous. They're absolutely ridiculous. And is it worth it to see a guy? I mean, I'm sure people see him every time there's a certain group, but yeah, I would not be. I certainly, after 2014, did not expect him back, but he continues to tour, so he's not going to stop till he's dead.
Also, though, I think this is I don't blame Paul. I'm actually kind of more blaming this hyping. They did this 2 years ago, and this might be fighting words to Phil because I know you love him. They teased something like this when they did Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks 2 years ago. Like, you will never believe the concert that we have. And don't get me wrong, I know Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks are music icons, and people love them. It
was a good concert. Yeah,
and it was a good show. That's awesome.
We'd seen Billy Joel,
Right.
You know what?
Yeah, you're right.
Stop throwing the same fastball if this is kind of the result.
Yeah.
Like this, just announce a concert. Just announce a concert. Don't have to do a press conference, press release to announce we are announcing something that has not been announced yet.
And maybe semantically, like biggest show in Minnesota history, maybe attendance wise or available seats. But Judd brought it up, and maybe the concert wasn't that great. But is Paul McCartney at age 83 a bigger show in Minnesota history than the actual Beatles all together? Long ago, but back in the 60s. So I also take issue with the framing of this. Very disappointed. Everyone's fired.
Everyone's fired. Honest question. If you went to Gray's in North Loop right now and you polled 50 of the people there, do you think over 75% or even 50% know who Paul McCartney is? I'm basically singling out younger generation. Like 21 to 25.
They might have heard of him, but they wouldn't identify
under
his
30,
music.
under 30, less than 75% know who Paul McCartney is.
So here's the thing. Two, if you're going to build something, it's the biggest show, which is just a way of saying you won't believe this act we booked, right? It's right now, in my opinion, it's a very small list of names, and it's not the Old Timers tour. Like if you got Taylor Swift back again, she qualifies for sure.
Yeah, but she was just here.
No, but I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna put it in that context, like you will
who would it be?
Honestly,
Taylor reaches that. Yeah.
And I know I saw Bring Me the News was speculating on this. Like Oasis just came back. Like like Oasis after 14 years of being disgruntled. And by the way, maybe you write that down. I bet that tour doesn't finish because those two dudes will just get into another fight and probably cancel their tour again. But that would have qualified if Oasis made one of their, and I think they're only doing like 5 stops in the U.S. They're not doing a lot. That would have qualified, in my opinion.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, but like historically, Oasis isn't on the level of the Beatles or Paul McCartney. But that would be a coup
in the 90s. Yeah. But like that would be a, oh my God, coup, right? Like that would be huge. Yeah. So I just. Yeah,
Glenn Frey has resurrected from the dead, and the Eagle.
If John Lennon is playing, call me up.
Yeah, okay, that's the hook. If John Lennon's there with Paul, that's the biggest show in Minnesota history.
They probably will do a creepy because they have done this at McCartney shows now, where he'll sing a Beatles song, and John will be on a big screen doing his part from the original,
the grave,
from beyond.
Yeah. I don't need that either. Like I'm sorry, but the 2 outdoor shows I saw were phenomenal. Like I would much rather see an act like that outside.
Yeah, he's 83. Yes.
Yeah, I won't be going.
People will probably hammer me in the comments for that.
I love the Beatles. I don't know you'll get hammered for that.
We do have like a younger skewing audience too on these podcasts, especially on YouTube. So people might not. Curious, like, are you if you're like under 30, are you at all familiar with Paul McCartney?
Well. And there's also a very good case to be made now. If you are under 30, the only people that you know who are super familiar with like all of his catalog is your parents are really old or your grandparents.
Are they going to start this show around 4:45 p.m.?
He goes
get it done by
at Target Field. He went for like 3 hours. It was incredible. And the best part was he broke out new songs for bathroom breaks. Because the crowd would just get
purposefully. He would just build it.
Yeah, he would just sing some new song, hey, I love my family, and then everyone would go to the bathroom.
It's a great song. Yeah, I've got that on Spotify.
Yeah. Hey, I love my family.
My family is great. I was in the Beatles at one time.
Mackey and Judd. We're not quite as old as Paul McCartney. It is the OG Score North podcast, though. So,
baby, I love you.